Sarah Penner writes about women and secrets. I discuss this and more on today's episode. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today I want to talk about a book that I've read, one that was given to me by my friend Bevan on a list of books that they recommended when they moved to India in the recent past. And today's book is all about poisonings and apothecaries. I am referring to The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, which was published in 2021. For those who don't know, Sarah Penner is an American writer, a white American writer who has only been writing for a handful of years, or at least getting published for a handful of years. They have a couple of books to their name, but not much else really about them out there. They gained some notoriety for this book in particular. Which is good for them, but yeah, they're still pretty new or pretty recent getting published type of writer. This is very interesting and worth talking about. And because this book is so new, I will do the usual thing where I don't spoil it in the summary section, but I might spoil it in the analysis section. So if you're interested in reading this, go out there and seek it out, and then come back and watch this video if you want to have a conversation. But without further ado, let's talk about The Lost Apothecary. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So The Lost Apothecary focuses on a couple different characters. It focuses on Nella and Eliza in the past. Nella is an English apothecary who sells poisons to what she describes as middling women, women who are upset with men in their lives and just want to poison them for one reason or another and leave them dead. She finds herself tasked with creating a rat poison for a Lady Amwell who wants to poison her husband, and she sends her servant girl Eliza to pick it up. It turns out that Eliza is a favored servant among Lady Amwell, and Lady Amwell has been teaching her to write and things like that, educating her. But it turns out that the Lord, the man of the house, has been sexually abusing Eliza, and Lady Amwell found out and figured that he had to go. So they work on creating a rat poison. Meanwhile, the story also focuses on Carolyn, who is a spurned housewife. She just found out that her husband is cheating on her, and they had a planned vacation in London, and Carolyn decides to go on her own and wants to enjoy her time there, really find herself. And when she's kind of going mudlarking, which is just searching the Thames for fun stuff, she ends up finding a mysterious vial, which belongs to the Nella and the secret apothecary shop that she has set up. And Carolyn decides to go on a research adventure, making friends with a librarian in an effort to better understand the past. Meanwhile, in the past, Eliza poisons her mistress's husband, and then she also has her period, but doesn't realize that she's having her period. Lady Amwell decides to go visit her family in the wake of her husband's death, and she decides to leave Nella behind, or leave Eliza behind, and Eliza decides to go and visit Nella, very curious about her and her work. We learn a little bit about Nella's past, how she was in love with a man, who she had helped him with his wife's afterbirth. Like, she gave her a curative that basically made everything kind of flow more naturally again. And this man and her fell in love, but she found out that he was cheating on her. But he had also like kind of poisoned her with the same curative while she was carrying a baby, and that caused her to miscarry. And so this woman, who it turned out was not his sister but actually his real wife, reached out to Nella about getting a poison to kill him, and that's in fact what they did. And so Nella's kind of set forth on this journey, and while she's sort of instructing Eliza on the way things are going, she's reached out to by Lady Clarence, who is upset that her husband is cheating on her with his cousin. And so Lady Clarence wants a poison to kill this woman, which Nella doesn't want to do because she only poisons men. And Lady Clarence basically tries to blackmail her and says, if you don't give it to me, I will make sure that the police know about you. While Nella creates this poison for Lady Clarence, we see that Carolyn's husband, James, in the present day, has come to London in an effort to beg Carolyn to come back to him and try to make amends. But Carolyn is more focused on her journey. She does a lot of investigation, going to back alley and finding the register of names and clients that Nella had found in the past, and is getting really close to sort of learning more about it. She even writes a few notes down. Unfortunately, Carolyn or James gets ill at that point with a cold, and he asks for like a medicine, which Carolyn wants to give him an oil to rub on his chest, but he accidentally drinks it and drinks too much and begins to get very ill. And at this time, the police, try to figure out what's happening there. They read her notebook full of all these poisons that she's talking about in the register, and they assume that it's her. So she's kind of are being held in custody at that moment. And then back in the past, Lady Clarence's husband ends up not getting poisoned after all, he actually does get poisoned because Lady Clarence put the poison in an alcohol, which when Lady Clarence's husband and his cousin went off on their own, she couldn't monitor who was drinking the poison, and the husband accidentally drank it. And then the police sort of become involved in this case, which threatens Nella and Eliza as well. And from there, the rest of the story takes place. What happens to Nella, Eliza, and Carolyn, you'll have to read to find out, but again, I might talk about that in the analysis section. In terms of analysis, there's a fair bit to talk about with the Lost Apothecary. One of the main things that Penner is writing about is women or misogyny or things like that. Penner tells a feminist story here, trying to help us understand, why women, might reach the point where they try to poison their husbands. And she talks a lot about the misogyny that men inflict upon women. You see that with the story of Amwell and Eliza, how Lord Amwell sexually abused Eliza, which unsettled his wife and led her to try to poison Amwell, because who knows what else he would have tried with Eliza and how that might have terribly affected her in the long run. And then Nella's love poisoning her so she would miscarry. That's a grave betrayal right there. Easy to see why someone might, react by poisoning them and killing them. And then even James cheating. Like, cheating isn't necessarily worth, poisoning someone, but you can understand why someone might be angry about that thing, and how this kind of misogyny might happen every day for women. And I do think at some point Penner is trying to argue that these poisonings are women defending themselves, but is that really the case? Like, are these poisonings really justified? Maybe in some case, because Amwell probably would have hurt Eliza in the long run. There is some sort of justification there, but not always. A lot of the time, Nella is selling poisons to people she describes as middling, not really having that much of a justification. But hey, someone's got to sell that poison to them. It might as well be her. So maybe there's some justification. I don't think they are completely. I think that's maybe a little bit where Penner's story falls apart. But I do think more deeply the story is about supporting other women. Nella supporting these women regardless of whether they're right or they're wrong, because society, especially in 1790s London, is not going to treat women very fairly. And just like even now, like, women aren't really treated with respect. So, you gotta defend women when possible. You see that near the end of the story when Gaynor, the librarian in the story, is called to sort of to sort of vouch for the research that Carolyn is rightfully doing. Like, the police are like, wait, is she actually doing that, or did she poison her husband? And Gaynor, like, she chooses to defend Carolyn in that moment, mostly because she probably sees her, like, rightfully not having poisoned her husband, but also because women need to support women, I think, regardless, again, of whether they're right or they're wrong, because Gaynor doesn't really truly know who Carolyn is, but she has some idea. So I think that's why she vouches for her in that story, in that part of the story. Penner is also writing about secrets and the effects of secrets in this story. The poisonings are, in this story, a centuries-long secret, essentially. Nobody knows exactly. They think they have some idea who it was, or the justification around it, but ultimately no one really knows who the apothecary was and why they were doing all of these poisonings. And essentially it's Nella's secret to bear. Like, it's a burden for her. Like, she carries the burden of all these killings, of all these poisonings, all these things that these other women did. It's on her shoulders, and it feels like it's kind of hurting her physically in some way. Allow me to read you an interesting quote from this. I am an apothecary, and it is my duty to dispense remedies to women, and so over the years they have come to me, and I have sold them what they wish. I have protected their secrets. I have borne the brunt of their burdens. And that's a very interesting quote, because Nella's sort of suggesting, maybe she didn't want to do this, but she's taken on these burdens. She's taken on the responsibility of the knowledge of all the people that she's killed for these women, and it's eating her alive, it feels like. Like, she's dealing with an illness, which might just be cancer or something like that at the end of her life, but she feels that that's like a physical manifestation of all these secrets that she's carrying, which is a very fascinating way to sort of explore this death dealing that she's doing. There's Nella there, and then Eliza feels kind of haunted by her own secrets of having, participated in the killing of Lord Amwell. But she feels kind of haunted in other ways too, which comes in the form of ghost for her. She thinks that Amwell Manor is haunted. She keeps hearing rumors about like a ghost of a former servant girl who died at the manor, which might have happened, like, given Amwell's sort of taste for young girls. That like, he may very well have killed a younger servant, or maybe it's just like the manifestation of her guilt of being sexually abused in a way that she doesn't quite understand, and she thinks, oh, this ghost is causing my discomfort. And then after she kills Lord Amwell, she thinks that she's being haunted by the ghost of Lord Amwell, manifesting in the form of her having her period. Another sign of womanhood in this story. Eliza being welcomed into womanhood in like a terrifying way to her, because she doesn't really understand. Nobody really explained what periods or anything were to her. But for Eliza, like, her guilt is manifested, her secrets are manifested in the form of this guilt, or in the form of like a supposed ghosts that we never see, and that Nella is trying to explain, these ghosts might not exist. At the end of the story, Carolyn believes the best thing to do is to keep Nella and Eliza's story a secret, and making sure that nobody really knows, and that their past is hidden, that the Lost Apothecary stays lost. But why? What difference does it make if you tell if you tell people about the apothecary. It's certainly a big research find and will help us better understand the history back then. So maybe she thinks she's protecting all women by sort of hiding the secret of the poisonings that take place, but I don't necessarily think that she's doing that, because the poisonings will happen regardless of whether anyone is aware of them, and you might be able to sort of disguise those poisonings in one way or another, but I really think it's kind of weird that she's choosing to keep this a secret. Like, history is staying hidden. You can't cover up the Band-Aid. You have to kind of show where we have gone in history. Otherwise, it's doomed to repeat itself. But I don't know. Maybe someone better than me knows why she's choosing to keep it a secret. It just feels a little weak in the ending there. There are a number of problems that I have with this story too. One is that the story feels rather bare bones. Not really a lot happens to Carolyn. She doesn't really affect the plot in any meaningful way. Her husband drinks a poison, which it's revealed that he kind of poisoned himself. So again, Carolyn doesn't have a role to play there. Maybe she moves beyond her husband and decides to separate from him. But again, that's where she was at the beginning of the story. So not a lot seems to happen to her. And like, the only thing that really seems to happen to Nell and Eliza is that they grow closer, and they also deal with the ordeal of Lady Clarence and her botched poisoning there. Not a lot really drives the story forward, and it feels kind of bland and boring at times. And then like, you should have like the marital drama to drive forward the story, but each character, Carolyn and her husband James, feel rather, again, bare bones. They don't really feel fleshed out, so it just feels like kind of boring, and like Penner's not really breaking new ground with this marital drama, so it doesn't really excite or provide intrigue. Again, every time that comes up, I'm like, just take me back to Nella and Eliza, because they are more fascinating characters. But the other thing I'll note is that Eliza's sacrifice at the end of the story, where they're on a bridge being chased by cops, and rather than having Nella sacrifice herself because she's dying, Eliza chooses to jump off the bridge. And then it's revealed that Eliza actually didn't die, and she survived because of this weird potion that she took, which suggests that magic is real, even though maybe it's not. But why have Eliza sacrifice herself like that if you're just going to have her come back? It just feels rather like a cop-out. So it undermines the story. It gives it no stakes, and especially in a story that doesn't really have a punch or something to carry it along. I feel like everything kind of suffers even more in that way. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Lost Apothecary. I have a lot of problems with it. It's a very average story. Like, it was enjoyable in some parts, but a real slog to get through in other parts. So I can't really say that I recommend it unless you find it at your local library and you're interested in that type of literature. I'm sure some people might find enjoyment out of it, but I was not one of those people. And it's not that I think I wasn't part of the target demographic. I just don't think it was all that well written, in my opinion. So not a fan of this. Don't really recommend it. But if you have any different thoughts, or you want to say something about my review here, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and have a discussion about this. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this book or this author if they're intrigued by that. Join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about books, movies, TV, things of that nature. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and apothecary-based travels. Farewell.